I want you to know where we are in the timeline, because the ending is not written. We write it. We decide. Can we pull ourselves out from the abyss? Can we accomplish something that no other republic or empire has ever done? Can you reverse the course that we're on? I want to show you the history of Rome as a republic. I showed you that as the Roman Empire begins to decline, what do? They start land grabs and food rations and free food, and then they change the republic, and now they don't let people know. They just change it. They leave all the Senate in and everything, but it's all a scam, so people can feel good. That's where we left it. Now, that's what we're doing here. And they're saying to us that state capitalism is where we're headed. Well, I just showed you that's not state capitalism, it's national socialism. Soon it'll be global socialism. And they can't say national socialism now because everybody will freak out. They know what that is. That's Mussolini and that's Hitler. This time it's global. George Soros said the problems of the world go away when nationality goes away. Everyone should be under one global flag. So let me read again from the pages of history what I read to you just a few minutes ago, the first 6 pages of this book. The people of Rome had gone from citizens of a republic to subjects of an emperor, and it all happened without violence, votes, or fanfare. It all happened without votes. People may not always look dangerous, but enemies to freedom are, and they are around us. They don't surround us, but they are around us. Nigel Farage hit the nail on the head when he tore into the dangerous leaders at the EU. Watch.
What they're being told, as their government's collapsing, is that it would be inappropriate for them to have a general election. In fact, Commissioner Wren here said they had to agree their budget first before they'd be allowed to have a general election. Just who the hell do you think you people are? You are very, very dangerous people indeed. Your obsession with creating this Euro state means that you're happy to destroy democracy. You appear to be happy for millions and millions of people to be unemployed and to be poor. Untold millions must suffer so that your Euro dream can continue.
That's what this is. He's right. Do you notice it all happened without votes or fanfare or violence? Without votes. What is the Euro telling Ireland? You can't even have an election. Just because it looks like freedom doesn't mean it is. We're told now that there is no such thing as freedom without economic freedom. I say bullcrap. I'd rather be poor and free and have a chance to do something, than rich and a slave. 64 AD, Emperor Nero said, "Let us tax and tax again. Let us see it to it that no one owns anything." Well, that's what we're doing now. The biggest tax hike in history, about to expire, the tax cuts, and the biggest tax hikes are coming. The president himself said, when it came to capital gains, in the debates, he said, well, even if it would hurt the economy, I would do it for fairness. Let us make sure that no man owns anything. You have eminent domain now. You have the federal land grab out west. Do you know how much land the government has just taken from the West in the last 2 years? 91 AD, the government became involved in agriculture. Really? Yep, the emperor ordered the destruction of half the vineyards to reduce production and raise the wine costs. Well, today we're burning our own crops, our own corn, for fuel in madness. We just passed the Food Safety Act, which Senator Bennett, a Democrat, just said on a microphone he didn't know was open, was rigged. 247 AD, the Emperor Aurelian, declared the right to relief to be hereditary. So in other words, if your parents were on welfare, you got on too. If your parents received benefits, so do you. The Dream Act. In Rome, people became very, very lazy, and they began to depend on the government to do everything for them because there was no reason to do anything yourself. Quote from Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The minds of men were gradually reduced to the same level, and the fire of genius was extinguished. What does that mean? The minds of men were gradually reduced to the same level. Well, in the Tower of Babel story, that means everybody was made the same. They were made into bricks instead of stones. How many of us have kids in our class or in our kids in school where they're held back for the other kids in school? You got to dumb down the whole class. We don't let anyone excel anymore. There are no winners anymore because it makes you feel bad. The minds of men were gradually reduced to the same level. Consequence, the fire of genius was extinguished. What built this country? Genius. Edison. Franklin. The assembly line. Genius. Because they could do it. Do you know that you cannot, because of all the federal regulations and everything else, they now say that Bill Gates could not have started Apple today? Not Apple, Microsoft. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're extinguishing genius. And that's the only thing that will save us, is the independent spirit and the genius, those that explored the mountains in the West, and those that said, the hell, I can't do that. This is my land. We were always, and I hope we always will be, we have always been the most charitable people, not because anybody told us to, not because they took it from us, but because it was the right thing to do. But this all led to the feeding of Christians to lions. How do you start at a decent person and progress into feeding people into lions? How do you do it? More in a second. I'm trying to find an old copy of Stuart Chase. The book is called The Road We Are Traveling. I only have a photocopy of the book. The Road We're Traveling, 1914, 1942. 1914, Progressivism, Woodrow Wilson. This is what he wrote. Now, this is the guy who, did the whole New Deal thing. He's, I think, the guy who actually coined the term, the New Deal. He said something is happening to capitalism. He wrote this in the 1940s, that something is happening to capitalism. And he said it's either turning to fascism, communism, or state capitalism, which is what they're saying we are now. We're headed that way. That's what China is. They say that's the new world model. Well, what is state capitalism? Well, he outlined more than a dozen things that he observed that were happening that would end in the result of replacing the free enterprise system. He said it would be replaced by something, he just called it X. He didn't know what they would end up calling it, but he said there were 12 things that had to happen. And I just want to go over these 12 things here. Here they are. Ready? First one is, need a strong centralized government. You think we have that? An executive arm growing at the expense of the legislative and judicial arms. Remind you about the FCC and what they announced today? The underwriting of employment by the government, either through armaments or public works stimulus project. The underwriting of Social Security by government, old age pensions, mother pensions, unemployment insurance, 99 weekers. The underwriting of food, housing, and medical care. I guarantee you, if education is a right, if health care is a right, how can jobs not be a right? How can housing not be a right? Oh, it's coming. The control of foreign trade by the government. The control of natural resources. Talk to the people in Alaska or Colorado on that, or West Virginia. The control of energy sources, hydroelectric power, petroleum, natural gas. The control of transportation. Oh, there's more. Wait until I get to the end. Where does it lead? Next. Stuart Chase wrote The Road We're Traveling in the 1940s, and he outlined what was coming in America, and he was a fan of it. He didn't really have a problem with any of this. But listen to what he had to say was coming in America before we moved from a republic to what he said was X, I would believe it, a global empire. He said that we're going to finance all these things, we're going to abandon the gold standard, and we're going to start deficit spending techniques. We would control our natural resources, our energy, our transportation. Then we would control agricultural production. I contend to you that is exactly what this food safety bill is. Control of labor organizations. Yeah, or do they control us? The enlistment of young men and women put in youth corps devoted to health, discipline, and community service. Heavy taxation with a special emphasis on estates and income of the rich. He said then it wouldn't be a lot of takeover of property or industries in the old socialistic sense. The formula appears to be control without ownership. It's interesting to recall the same formula was used in the management of great corporations in depriving stockholders of power. Then the last one was the state control of communication and propaganda. Need I remind you that today the FCC outlined net neutrality, so they can control and protect you on the internet. I told you at the beginning, blue pill or red pill. The red one makes you, I think the blue one makes you fall asleep, and the red one, but I'm not really sure which one. You want to wake up, or do you want to go to sleep? Sleeping probably is a lot easier at this point. But seeing things for what they really are is more important for your children, and in the long run, and the only way that we cannot repeat the mistakes of the Roman Republic and then become some sort of empire, some sort of global, national, socialistic empire. Because that's where we're headed, gang. It happens time and time again. Back in a minute. Tomorrow, I want you to join me for a very special town hall program. I'll be in Pittsburgh talking to people there and talking to you about dealing with unemployment, how to maintain the dream and the hope of America. How do we go from broke to a republic to lead the world out of darkness again? That's tomorrow night, movie theaters. Check it out at glennbeck.com. From New York, good night, America.